I'm here on a job site with Tim, who owns his own electrical contracting business.
3 employees and 2 work trucks.
Tim traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance. We're positively here where he needs us most.
They sure are.
With step-by-step help on all his insurance needs, all for shockingly low rates.
Shockingly low, huh?
Just a little bit of electrician humour. Do you get it?
I got it.
You know, it feels like we have a real connection. All right, I'll stop.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Keeping Karlsson. I'm your host, Ryan Downey, and today I'm here on a solo mission, keeping you up to date with the fantasy news, takes, and analysis that will be relevant to you as a fantasy manager. And there happens to be a lot this week, which is perhaps unsurprising because it is the week that precedes Friday's trade deadline. And so there are injuries, outjuries, roster decisions, trades, a whole bunch of stuff we're going to get through here tonight. And I'm excited to be bringing it to you today. And we're going to start with the leaders of the Pacific Division as of recording time, and that would be the Vegas Golden Knights, who have been going through a bit of a disappointing patch in their season right now. And some bad news came out of their game against Pittsburgh, where they got shellacked 5-0. Mark Stone suffered a fairly innocuous-looking injury against the Penguins in that game. As we all know, Stone has had injury issues in the past, and when you see something like this where it doesn't seem to take much to take him off the ice, I think you definitely have a bit of concern. He's been announced as day-to-day with an upper body injury, and we continue to await an update. The news looked like it was getting even worse for Vegas as Bruce Cassidy announced during Monday's practice that Shea, Theodore, and Mitch Marner were struggling with illness and may be questionable for Tuesday's game as a result. Fortunately for the Golden Knights, they will have those guys in the lineup on Tuesday to help turn things around. Theodore taking his usual spot on the top pairing, and Marner centering the second line. Not seeing much from Marner in that role, but it does look like Shea Theodore got on the board with an assist on the Ivan Barbashev goal to open the scoring for Vegas. The other assist on that Barbashev goal went to Jack Eichel, who finally makes his return to the score sheet after a largely ineffective 2 games since his return from the Olympics, winning the gold medal with the United States. As someone who owns Eichel in multiple leagues, I need to see Jack Eichel as he was meant to be, someone who scores multiple points and gets in more than he has been. And so Vegas is going to need that. I'm going to need that. I think we all need that at this point, Jack Eichel. I'd like to transition to a much more deserving division leader at this point, and we're going to go to the Central Division where the Colorado Avalanche lead by 6 points and show no signs of stopping after coming out of the Olympic break super hot. A lot of their recent success has been as a result of their top line, which includes Nathan MacKinnon, Marty Necas, and Gabriel Landeskog, who has landed up there with the MacKinnon-Necas duo. And that line drove the offense for Colorado in their win against LA, 4-2. They won the Corsi battle at a staggering 70%, and they scored 3 goals at even strength, with Necas and Landeskog combining for a late power play goal. So they basically dominated the offense for the team on Monday. Landeskog himself had a goal and 2 assists with 5 shots to add to 2 assists and 7 shots in 3 games coming out of the Olympic stint with Sweden, where he was a key contributor with 4 points in 5 games. Landeskog probably isn't available for you in Cupful, but at only 40% rostership across Yahoo, there are definitely leagues out there where you can get him, so grab him quick and make those clown leagues look foolish, as I could see him sustaining this torrid pace to the end of the season. Someone who we won't be seeing a lot until the end of the season, though, is Arturri Lehkonen. He's going to miss some time, according to Jared Bednar. He left the game in the first period on Monday. The Avalanche did try a few options to fill his spot on the second line with Nichushkin and Nelson, including Victor Olofsson and Parker Kelly, who has been pretty interesting in bangers leagues with his hits prowess and scoring a goal here and there. I'm personally still holding a candle for Gavin Brindley. Short Shifts listeners might remember Bednar saying earlier this year that he sees Brindley as a top 6 player. and they could certainly use some playmaking creativity on that line with Nuke and Nelson. So keep an eye on game day tweets tomorrow to see what happens with the Colorado Lions. Another young player who looks like he might be able to make an impact in the NHL is Conor Geekie, forward for the Tampa Bay Lightning, who was recalled from the Tampa Bay Lightning farm team, the Syracuse Crunch, earlier on Tuesday. This comes on the heels of Gage Gonsalves and Dominic James being announced out for at least the next 2 games. And many of us prospect forecasters have been absolutely salivating over this day, as Geekie is currently the Lightning's prospect with the best offensive pedigree. He scored 51 points in 47 games with AHL Syracuse this year and shoots over 3 shots a game, as well as playing a significant power play role with the Crunch. This could be the forever call-up for this young player who has had a reset in the AHL after playing 52 games for the big club last season in a limited role. He just needs to show them something. There's no better time like the present with opportunity abounding in Tampa Bay, and it's also trade deadline time, and I'm sure that the team is eager to get a look at him to decide if he can be a part of their playoff roster. Personally, I could definitely see Conor Geekie supplanting someone in that top 6, whether it's Gage Gonsalves or Dominic James or any of the other kind of lower pedigree options that have been there. But if you're planning long-term in Tampa Bay, I could really see him supplanting Oliver Bjorkstrand long-term. Bjorkstrand's deal is done this year. It might be a bit more expensive to replace him than Tampa Bay could afford. And who would be surprised to see Tampa Bay have yet another cheap replacement in the hopper coming up to play a key role? And so that would see Conor Geekie on the second line and on the top power play with Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, and Darren Radish. So you can't ask for much better deployment, as a young player than being on the power play with those guys. As of right now, at 7:45 p.m. Eastern, we don't have the lines for their game tonight against the Minnesota Wild, so keep an eye on game day tweets and frozen tools to see how things shook out against Minnesota for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And for Conor Geekie, who I'm wishing him well in his next stint in the NHL. While we're talking about Minnesota, I might as well mention a trade that just broke about 10 minutes ago, and so this might be the first time some folks here are hearing this news. The Minnesota Wild have acquired bottom 6 center Michael McCarron from the Nashville Predators for a second-round pick, the year of which, as of right now, is unclear. He's a 6'6" center with edge and definitely a Bill Guerin type of player. To me, this seems like a bit of an overpay with a second-round pick going back to Nashville, and this probably won't be relevant except for you dynasty sickos in deep 32-team dynasty leagues, but it's an interesting barometer of where the market might be going. A second-round pick was also the price for a depth defenseman, Connor Murphy, who was acquired from the Chicago Blackhawks by the Edmonton Oilers. This second-round pick was a 2028 NHL draft selection. So the Edmonton Oilers get their defenseman, and that looks like that's what they're going to do. This won't move the needle in your points leagues, but I would keep an eye on Connor Murphy in your bash leagues, that's blocks, shots, and hits, because he does seem poised to get more opportunity in Edmonton than he had in Chicago. The blue line in Chicago is overrun with young and hungry talent, and Connor was frequently the 6th or 7th defenseman in ice time, despite being a regular member of the 7D rotation that had become the norm in Chicago. In Edmonton, Murphy seems likely to fall somewhere in between the Nurse-Wallman pairing at 20-21 minutes and the likes of Spencer Stastny and Ty Emberson, who haven't been able to cut it in that third pairing role. I could see him getting back up closer to his career average of 20 minutes a night, in which case you can likely expect him to return to averaging 2 hits, 2 blocks, and a shot per game. I personally made a spec out of him in the FHL Fantasy Hockey Life tiered dynasty, where we do get points for defensive impact and ice time. And so if you are similarly rewarded in your fantasy leagues, you may consider that as well. You probably could get him for pretty cheap. We're going to shift tack here and talk about the hospital ward. Lots of players donning the injury bracelet, some long-term, some short-term, and we're going to start with some hopefully shorter-term ones over in Columbus. One of the bigger names to be missing time in Columbus would be Zach Werenski, and indeed he missed Monday's game due to illness. There was some hope from Rick Bowness that he would be able to return today on Tuesday. They had him in the rink getting some IVs. Unfortunately, it looks like he has missed tonight as well. Very tough timing for fantasy managers at this point of the season to lose a high draft pick in Zach Werenski, who has been producing like one, and so hopefully we can have him back by Thursday. Usually in the times when Zach Werenski misses time, we see Denton Mateychuk step up, and indeed he did have a point last night against the New York Rangers, 1 assist, 2 shots on goal in 21 minutes of ice time, which is a bit of a far cry from what we saw the last time Werenski was out when he topped 24 in 25 minutes. We'll keep an eye on his ice time tonight against Nashville. As of the end of the first period, he's accrued about 6 minutes, so he looks to be on pace for his season average. Boone Jenner was also a late scratch this evening. He didn't make it out for warm-ups, and it is being described that he is out day-to-day for maintenance. Jenner was playing as the left winger on a line with Sean Monahan and Danton Heinen, and it looks like tonight Rick Bowness has been forced to dress Kent Johnson, who has recently been a healthy scratch for the team. Another opportunity here for Johnson to hopefully prove something, anything. I put my reputation on this guy a little bit, like the skill that he showed in junior and in college. It just looked like he was going to be something very special at the NHL level. And we've seen flashes of it here and there, but nothing really to get too excited about. So, yet another opportunity for him to show why he belongs in the NHL. And just for completionist's sake here, goaltender Elvis Merzlikins did enter the game for Jet Greaves, who left for a short while with an apparent injury. He did end up making 2 saves in just over 8 minutes of playing time before Jet Greaves came back at the end of the first period. So a quality relief appearance for Elvis Merzlikins, and if you were someone who had him in your lineup just because you had no other options, then enjoy the 0.6 points. We were talking about Boone Jenner and Kent Johnson in the 2 left wing hole. Let's talk about someone else in the 2 left wing hole, but this time for Washington. Alexei Protas is missing tonight's game due to personal reasons. Hard to tell if this is going to be a long-term absence or if this is just a one-game kind of thing, but you might want to keep an eye on Connor McMichael, who moved up from the third line to play with Dubois and Wilson. Dubois in particular has been a pretty strong performer recently with 3 goals and 1 assist coming out of the Olympic break, and he had 2 points in his return to the Washington lineup February 5th against Nashville. So that's a 7 points in 5-game stretch for him. Very exciting to see him back on the roster, and I'd certainly be excited to add anyone who is playing with him, and so keep an eye out for Connor McMichael. Staying in the Metro with the Philadelphia Flyers, who missed Travis Konecny against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Monday night. He is day-to-day with an upper body injury and looks to be a game-time decision for Thursday's game against the Buffalo Sabres. And in the NHL, one man's injury is another man's opportunity, and 2 Flyers players are getting increased deployment due to Konecny potentially being out of the lineup. The Flyers moved Owen Tippett into his spot on the top line with Dvorak and Zegras, and Matvei Michkov gets put onto the power play with Trevor Zegras, Owen Tippett, Bobby Brink, and Jamie Drysdale. And so perhaps that will be enough to get the Flyers fans off of Rick Tocchet's back about Matvei Michkov, who has shown some steady improvement since being called out by the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. He might be out there for you if there's a manager who maybe got frustrated with his lack of production, and so you could do worse than adding Matvei Michkov. And Philadelphia has an actually pretty decent schedule with some off-day games next week, so give him a shot if Konecny does indeed miss tomorrow's game. We'll finish off with 2 pretty important center injuries that are yet to be resolved for their teams. We'll start with Roope Hintz, who is missing yet another game tonight on Tuesday. He will not be suiting up for Dallas against the Calgary Flames. He does have now 2 days to rest before their game against Colorado on Friday, and he was placed on IR retroactive to last Wednesday, so he can return on Friday if he's ready to go. Someone who we won't be seeing anytime soon is New York Rangers captain JT Miller, who was placed on IR today, Tuesday, March 3rd, so he is eligible to return next Tuesday, March 10th. He is apparently going through yet another injury. This is apparently an injury that is not related to any of his previous injuries this season. I'm loath to recommend anyone that can fill in for Miller, who was currently playing on a line with Zibanejad and Gabe Perreault. It's hard to even know who might even still be a New York Ranger by the end of this week, or even by the time you're listening to this podcast with the trade deadline approaching. This could be a team that's without Vinny Trocheck, Adam Fox, tons of rumors out there, and so hard to really say who's going to get a good opportunity from this, but they've already called up Perreault, who we'll talk about in the segment after the break here. Will Cooley could move up into that top line with Zibanejad, leaves the Trocheck line with kind of a gap at that left wing position. Maybe Ty Karche could fill in that spot, their new acquisition from Seattle. Not a lot to get too excited about in New York, and it looks like they're going to be missing their captain for a considerable period of time here. So we'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of waiting, the wait might soon be over for Winnipeg Jets fans and Josh Morrissey managers, as he was at the Jets morning skate today, Tuesday, wearing a non-contact jersey, and he can't come back fast enough. He was a top 10 draft pick at the defender position for many fantasy hockey rosters earlier this year, and while he has been surpassed by the likes of Lane Hutson, Noah Dobson, Matthew Schaefer, and Darren Radish, he's still going to be valuable to teams in the fantasy stretch run here as a D1 or D2. Certainly my dynasty team could use a quick return, so I'm hoping that he will shed that non-contact jersey in short order. Another defender making his return tonight for the Florida Panthers is Uvis Balinskis, and so yes, Brian will be happy to know that Balinskis made his return tonight. He did make things a little difficult for the newly renamed Brylan team in the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Dynasty League, as we were happy to throw him on IR for some other options on our blue line while he was out. He was pointless since the Olympic break, despite having over 10 minutes on the power play in those 3 games, but did have an assist tonight on the opening goal from Anton Lundell, so a good start for him in his return to the lineup. Florida looks likely to rely on him to play between 20 to 25 minutes, with Seth Jones remaining out. You may not have to rely on him for such an important role on your fantasy team, but just keep an eye on the rest of tonight's game, see how he does. He might be an interesting option as a lower-end power play quarterback that could be on your waiver wire. And some good news over in Anaheim with Troy Terry and Michael Granlund both progressing according to Joel Quenneville. Quenneville had this to say about Granlund, that he skated before practice and said he felt a little better. We'll see how he comes out of it. Someone who is taking a role in the top 6 on the Beckett-Seneke line is Jeffrey Viel. He won't be much of a points threat, but he does hit a lot. And so, again, this might be another great option for you bash players, Bangers Leagues players out there. He's going to get a bit of a bump in ice time, which should lead to more of those delightful peripherals that we love so dearly. And with that, I'm going to take a short break. You're listening to Short Shifts.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you the options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm taking a look at the odds right now. I like looking at the awards. See the Norris odds there? It's basically Cale Makar and Zach Werenski, both the overwhelming favorites. Quinn Hughes is the next up. Pretty high odds. Quinn Hughes, I think, is pretty good. Maybe he has a shot. But hey, that's up for you to decide over at DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-777777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026. NHL. All rights reserved.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Welcome back to Short Shifts, and we're going to end our time here together by talking about some young players who are playing key roles for their teams in the downward slope of the season here. It is the week of the trade deadline, as I've mentioned a couple times here tonight, and so whether you're a team that's looking to make the playoffs, contend for the Stanley Cup, or you're a team near the bottom of the standings playing at the string, there's opportunity abound for players to step up and affirm their role within the team, either for the present, the playoff run, and long term. And so I'm going to take a look at some younger players that seem set to grab the brass ring and seize larger roles on their team. And we're going to start in Pittsburgh, where a couple of young players are making a big impact for the team right now. With Sidney Crosby out, this is a really tough blow for the Penguins and for any managers who picked up Sidney Crosby maybe for their stretch run or who have been benefiting from his steady production all season. Elon and Brian brought up names like Anthony Mantha, Yegor Chinakhov, and even Brian Rust and Ricard Raquel on the Mega Show this week. But the one name that I was listening for didn't come up, and that is 18-year-old rookie phenom Ben Kindel, who we've talked about a lot this season, and there was certainly a week or two where he would have been impactful for your fantasy teams. I know he won me a matchup earlier this year, and he looks to be someone who could win you matchups going forward. He's moved up from the third line, where he has been pretty steady this season, to center the top line on Pittsburgh between the two most potent veteran scorers on the team in Rust and Raquel. He earned this new deployment after a 1-goal, 1-assist performance against Vegas on Sunday, when his then line with Justin Brazeau and Anthony Mantha dominated the possession battle and was responsible for most of Pittsburgh's even-strength offense against the Golden Knights. He's still seeing power play 2 time, and I don't expect that to change given how well Anthony Mantha has fit in on that unit, but playing with the top 2 forwards on the team at even strength is going to be a boon for young Ben Kindel, and I would want a piece. We'll talk a little bit here about Yegor Chinakhov, and I agree with Brian. He is probably the most interesting secondary forward on the team right now. He is also super hot coming out of the break, shooting 3 shots a game and potting 2 goals, both at even strength. Who would have ever thought that we would be interested in any forwards on Pittsburgh that are not named Sidney Crosby, or even without Crosby in the lineup? To me, it's just a testament to the excellent work Kyle Dubas has done to retool the squad, and I'm excited to see how they finish the season. I think we all deserve to see Sidney Crosby in games that matter in May and June, and the likes of Ben Kindel and Yegor Chinakhov look fit to bring the Pittsburgh Penguins back to the playoffs. And both guys are probably available in your fantasy league, so they might be able to help you get to the playoffs too. Yegor Chinakhov at 8% owned in Yahoo, and Ben Kindel at 5%. Both are owned in most Cupful leagues, but if you're in any kind of Yahoo league, it seems like they're both out there for you, so go for it. It's time now to talk about maybe one of the most exciting young teams in the NHL, and that's the San Jose Sharks. And while I would love to just sit here and wax poetic about Macklin Celebrini, who is one of the best players in the NHL today, I'm going to focus actually on the current second-line center for the San Jose Sharks. Wait for it. It's Michael Misa, who is in his rookie season for the Sharks, and he has been gangbusters, lights out for the San Jose Sharks in recent times, with 9 points in his last 11 games. He looks to be stapled on a line with William Eklund, and that goes back about 10 games into the kind of middle of January. They recently got Tyler Toffoli on that line as well, and it's just been great for those guys. They aren't exactly dominating play from a possession standpoint, but hey, Misa is getting in on the scoring, and that is exciting to see. I think there was a lot of talk for people whether he should go back to junior, and I know that there was some rumors out there that the Brantford Bulldogs under Spencer Hyman and the Hyman family were looking to acquire him for the Brantford Bulldogs if he was going to be made available to junior teams, but San Jose is using him as the second-line center and on power play too, and so I think that won't be happening anytime soon. I think he's here to stay. William Eklund has also been pretty strong from a point standpoint in that span, playing with Misa. He has 7 assists in his last 9 games. He probably is not available to you in free agency in Cupful, but he is 32% rostered in Yahoo. Misa certainly will be available to you. He is only 8% rostered, and I think that number is going to keep going up. So you want to get in on him quick. Staying in the Pacific Division, we're going to talk about some key young players of the Edmonton Oilers, including here Matt Savoie and Vasily Podkolzin, who are both kind of middle 6-ish wingers for the Oilers. Both of them kind of see time with Leon Draisaitl. And I'll start with Savoie here, who has been extremely efficient in 15 minutes average ice time per night, getting a goal and 5 assists in his time since coming back from the Olympic break. He's playing some of the best hockey of his career, and that's kind of hard for me to say. I've always kind of been not a hater of Matt Savoie, but I just didn't really see all of the appeal, especially given his size and how difficult it is to impact the game in the NHL at that size. Well, he is showing me and a lot of people in Edmonton what is special about him. And if you watch him play, he is playing with pace. He's playing with speed. That's something that older Edmonton Oilers lineup definitely needs a lot of. If he can keep this up and play an important role on the Oilers as they trudge towards the playoffs here and another dance with Lord Stanley, he could very well be changing their trade deadline plans. We've heard all season about how Edmonton needs quality at each position, goaltending, forward, and defenseman. They added some help on defense, as we talked about earlier with Connor Murphy, but it looks like they may not need to add a ton of help at the forward position as long as the likes of Matt Savoie can continue his strong play. As for Vasily Podkolzin, he has 4 points in his last 5 games, which spans over the Olympic break, and he looked pretty good driving his own line against LA the other day, scoring a goal and shooting 6 times on net. He and his line mates Trent Frederick and Adam Henrique dominated the shooting and Corsi battle, and that's probably good for Stan Bowman to see as they go into the trade deadline. I did mention Gabe Perreault earlier, and with JT Miller's injury and with the mass exodus coming in New York, I think you could see him stay in the lineup for the rest of the season. He's been averaging around 16, 17 minutes a night since he returned to the lineup in January. And we're seeing a little bit of why New York is happy to have him up there, especially in the game against the Columbus Blue Jackets. On Monday, he scored 2 goals and 1 assist on 6 shots on goal. Very limited power play time on ice, so this was all at even strength. After we've been talking about him all year, it's pretty exciting to see him start to go off here, and looking forward to see what happens when he's given a permanent role in the lineup. With JT Miller out for the foreseeable future and Vinny Trocheck likely out of town, that does leave 1 spot open on the power play. It would be Mika Zibanejad, Gabe Perreault, Will Cooley, Alexi Lafreniere, and Adam Fox. Those are some pretty talented offensive players to be out there with, and so I'll be watching to see if that does indeed happen. And at 1% owned, I think you should be watching for him too. I'm going to finish off tonight with a guy who is maybe not as young and promising as some of the prospects we've talked about here tonight, but someone who has been making a huge impact for his team, and that is the Buffalo Sabres' Peyton Krebs. Now, admittedly, this might be a pick more for your deep leagues, but Peyton Krebs is finding himself on the top line with Tage Thompson and has actually seen most of his time this year with one of Thompson and Doan or Thompson and Tuck. And so that's lineup placement that you can trust. Even when he started the season, he was on the line with Beck Malenstein and Josh Dunn, and all of those lines have one thing in common, and that is that they dominate the shots for percentage. So they're getting more opportunities than they are giving up. And Krebs, for his part, is getting in on a lot of it. He has 12 points in his last 13 games and is really starting to blossom as a utility forward for Buffalo. He's not seeing any power play time or anything like that, so this might be more of someone to add to the many streamers that you can get on Buffalo that are productive. But Peyton Krebs is playing an important role for the team, and I am all for it. And with that, that's going to be all for me today. Thanks for joining me today on Short Shifts. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider joining the Keeping Karlsson Patreon group at http://keepingkarlsson.com/patron, where super supporters receive ad-free episodes and you can interact with Brian, Elon, the whole Short Shifts crew, and hundreds of other talented fantasy managers on our active Discord server. I've referenced this site a lot tonight. I couldn't prepare the show without it. I couldn't be a fantasy manager without it. It's GameDayTweets.com. Go there to get all the best info from Twitter, including team by team and searchable tweets by player name from beat writers that are around the team all the time. And Shams and Elon do such a great job with that website. Visit them and the other great sites that we use to research our episodes at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach, and until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.